Now, what is the difference between subsidiary certificate of title and subsidiary strata certificate of title? So it's SCT versus SSCT. Okay, let's quickly do a very quick introduction. Now, land title is known as the certificate of title. Strata title is known as the subsidiary strata certificate of title, or SSCT. What then is the subsidiary certificate of title, or SCT, used for? Now, over the years of teaching RES, I know even a week before the RES exams, I will still have students coming to me to ask me, Sam, can you please explain what's the difference between SCT and SSCT? So that's why I decided to actually record a series of very short videos so that you can clarify your doubts with me. Now, SCT is conferred upon long leases of airspace. So subsidiary certificate of title is also known as the lease title. So the most common example of a lease title is HDB lease title. And of course, you have JTC lease title. And of course, you have those long leases. Now, when we say long leases, basically, I just want to make a distinction between long lease and short tenancy. Now, tenancies are commonly about 2 to 3 years. So maybe office leases, you have like 5 years. Now, like I know for a fact that WeWork rent 7 years. So those are still tenancies. So on their balance sheet, they don't have an office asset. Now, there are people who lease 10-year factory lease. So on their balance sheet is reflected as they own factories. So now, so this is the difference between short tenancy, that means up to 7 years, and long leases that can be 9,999 years, or the common one being 99-year residential leases or 30-year factory leases. Now, so common examples of SCT will be private apartments that occupy only airspace with no share in land. So the more common example will be shop house, on top of the shop house or on top of a shop. Now, on top of a shop house can be an office, and somebody can come in and rent for 10 years. So actually, rent for 10 years, you become the lessee. You become the owner. So I have here that somebody rented a private apartment on top of a coffee shop. So for 99 years. So now, usually they'll do it in the 60s, 1960s. So by now they would have left 30 over year lease remaining on lease, 30 over years remaining on lease. Now, no share in land. That is the main difference between SCT and SSCT. Don't forget, SSCT, you have the subsidiary strata certificate of title. So the word strata means that there is a collective ownership of common property. You need to set up a corporation called MC. Now, but SCT is different. There is no collective ownership of common properties. All right, that means that the land title, all right, that is the CT, certificate of title, is still in the hand of the lessor or the landowner. So in my earlier example of a coffee shop and then apartment on top of the coffee shop, now the land title is still in the hand of the coffee shop owner. So he's the landowner. So upstairs only own the airspace. Now example, Ministry of National Development leases the entire office component of Jurong East Mall for 30 years. This is reported in the news. Another example will be Factory A sublets a portion of its space to operator B for 10 years. So that will then result in the lease title. a lease title, because 10 years, 10 years, you must register your title. If not, then it will be illegal now. So later on, I will have videos on tenancy and leases. You will come across equitable lease. Now, equitable lease means what? Means that, okay, you have this kind of situation where two parties, they agree to a lease of 10 years. And then because it's exceeding 7 years, so the law requires the parties to register this interest. So sometimes they don't want to register. They just, maybe the lessee say, no, I just want to have a guarantee of 10 years of usage. I don't want to be the owner and all that. Now, so it may look like it's illegal. So no, you just don't have a registration, but your contract to lease the place for 10 years continue to bind both parties. So therefore, in this kind of situation, it is known as the equitable lease. The equitable lease. So you're not a legally registered lessee, but nonetheless, there's a binding contract before the lessee and the lessor. Okay, so now the next concept I want to discuss will be the holder of subsidiary certificate of title will have the estate in land. Now, so I presume that you have already watched the video on estate in land. Now, if you haven't watched the video on estate in land, you can actually go back to the video on estate in land to understand what is the meaning of estate in land and the right of possession. So what's the relationship between this term? Now, SCT holder, meaning now I'm a lease title, I hold a lease title called SCT. Yeah? Now I am the legal owner of the premises. So what do I do as the legal owner of the premises? I pay property tax, I pay maintenance, I pay insurances. In other words, the lease that I have gone into is also known as the triple net lease. So usually that will be like the 10-year factory lease, for example, or 10-year office lease, for example. So now you still have a lot of these kind of examples in the market. Now registration, like I mentioned earlier, now the law under the Singapore Land Authority, the Land Registration Act and all that, will require long leases exceeding 7 years to be registered. With, of course, Singapore Land Authority, you have the title office there. So because once the lessor carve out such a long lease, is considered subdivision of land. That means a portion of the land that you lease out has become a different set of property altogether. So a separate title will be issued, and this, you know, is the lease title. Let's say the land title is not given to you. All right, you're just a lease title. You just have the airspace, all right, with no share in land. So that kind of lease title is known as subsidiary certificate of title. Now, like I mentioned earlier, you may go and find the video on estate in land. In my proprietary interest video, I also mentioned subsidiary certificate of title. So, you know, this whole series of video is actually also to give you the correct conceptual understanding that a lot of topics, you know, they can stand on their own to form a topic to be tested. But sometimes, you know, in the exam, you will have a scenario question whereby you need to really have the full conceptual understanding to be able to link all the different concepts together. So let's say, like, for example, now you have understood SCT, but when you, let's say earlier you have watched the video on estate in land, you will still want to hear this particular video. So is this kind of linkages that is very important for your overall understanding of the land law subjects. So I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much.